They tried to separate the princess and prince, but fate had other plans. Humans had settled here generations ago, and over time, they had built a civilization that amazed even the most advanced alien visitors. Technology and art flourished side by side, and every corner of the planet carried a sense of human pride and determination. At the heart of this bustling planet lived Princess Lyra and Prince Kale, not only rulers but symbols of hope and courage for all of humanity. Lyra moved through the palace halls with quiet confidence. Her long hair shimmered in the sunlight streaming through the windows, and her eyes held a spark that always made people feel she was thinking 3 steps ahead. She had grown up learning diplomacy, science, and strategy. Kale, in contrast, was the perfect complement. Strong, clever, and patient, he had an instinct for leadership that drew people to him. Together, they were more than royalty. They were a team, a pair whose combined intelligence and courage made them a force to be reckoned with. Despite the peace that blanketed Aurora, danger had begun to stir at the edges of human space. Far beyond the stars humans had charted, alien factions watched with envy and fear. The humans' rapid growth, their cleverness, and their ability to unite multiple colonies under a single vision alarmed them. Among these factions, whispers of a bold plan circulated, a plan to weaken humanity by separating the princess and prince, the core of Aurora's leadership and inspiration. If Lyra and Kale could be taken away from each other, the aliens hoped the humans might falter. On a seemingly ordinary morning, Lyra awoke to a message from the palace security chief. "Princess, you must attend a meeting immediately. There are urgent matters regarding an external delegation." She frowned, sensing a subtle tension in the message. Kale, reading a similar notice, felt a prickling unease. They had both faced political schemes before, but something about these messages felt different. By the time they arrived at the meeting chambers, the air was thick with unease. The delegation was composed of beings from a newly contacted star system, looking human enough to avoid suspicion, but carrying an aura of alien precision that made the palace staff uneasy. They spoke politely, offering knowledge, resources, and trade agreements, all while subtly suggesting that Lyra and Kale should spend extended periods apart to manage different projects. Lyra's instincts screamed that something was wrong. She noticed the minor inconsistencies, the way the aliens avoided eye contact with Kale, the strange hesitations in their speech. Kale, always alert to strategy, felt the hidden currents of manipulation, but outwardly both maintained calm. They accepted the invitations, politely agreeing to participate in the separate programs, all the while quietly planning their next steps. As the day progressed, it became clear that this separation was more than political maneuvering. Lyra was escorted to a distant research station under the guise of studying energy fields, while Kale was taken to a military base on the opposite side of the planet to consult on defense strategies. Security measures were tighter than usual. Every corridor, every room, every window was monitored. The aliens had indeed put their plan into motion, aiming to isolate the pair completely. Despite the apparent control, Lyra quickly found ways to assess her environment. She examined the technology surrounding her, testing its limits. She discovered hidden sensors and communication devices, and her mind raced to figure out how to turn them to her advantage. Every observation became a potential tool, every small detail a clue. Kale, meanwhile, quietly surveyed the security protocols of his location, noting guard rotations, camera placements, and structural weaknesses. Both were determined not to be trapped. The first night apart was the hardest. Lyra stared at the stars from her chamber, feeling the distance between her and Kale as a physical ache. She wondered if he felt the same, and more importantly, whether he had already started devising a plan. Meanwhile, Kale lay awake on a bed that didn't feel like his own, studying the ceiling as he traced escape possibilities in his mind. They were separated physically, but neither allowed fear to control them. They were human, and humans always adapted. Using the small devices in her room, Lyra managed to send a coded message to Kale. It was a simple string of lights flashing in a pattern only he would understand, a pattern they had used in childhood games to communicate secretly. Kale noticed immediately. He smiled, a small but determined gesture, realizing that despite the alien interference, their minds were still connected. The message was brief: observe, adapt, prepare. Over the next few days, both began testing their limits. Lyra learned to manipulate the research station systems, bypassing minor security protocols and observing the routines of those around her. Kale did the same, subtly redirecting guards and creating openings that could be exploited later. They both realized the alien factions underestimated humans' capacity for thinking creatively and for cooperation, even when physically apart. Back at the palace, the citizens of Aurora sensed the tension. Rumors spread quietly among the engineers, scientists, and soldiers, who began making small preparations. Supplies were moved to secret caches, defense systems were reinforced, and a network of loyal humans quietly formed to watch for any signs of danger. Humans Lyra and Kale knew never waited passively. They acted, sometimes in ways that their enemies could not predict. Lyra's skills as an engineer proved invaluable. She began creating tools out of everyday items in her room, assembling devices that could help her communicate more effectively, track patterns, and even disrupt alien technology subtly. Kale, using his knowledge of strategy, started mapping escape routes, noting potential weaknesses in guard patrols and structural vulnerabilities. Each day, they grew more confident, proving that human determination could overcome obstacles that seemed insurmountable. The aliens, however, were growing frustrated. They had counted on isolation to weaken the princess and prince, assuming that distance and control would make them compliant. They did not anticipate the level of intelligence and creativity that humans could apply under pressure. Every attempt to manipulate or contain Lyra and Kale failed, and each misstep by the aliens gave the humans more information to plan their eventual reunion. On the fifth day, a critical opportunity arose. A minor power surge in Lyra's station caused a temporary blind spot in the security cameras. She acted quickly, moving through the corridors with calculated precision, gathering tools and information she could use. Kale, noticing a shift in the patrol patterns at his base, began subtly influencing events to create an opening for movement. Both realized that the universe itself seemed to be giving them a chance, a sign that fate might favor their efforts. Despite the tension, moments of reflection gave them strength. Lyra thought about the people of Aurora, about the scientists and engineers who had built the cities, about the families who had given everything to build a strong human civilization. Kale reflected on the battles humans had faced before, on planets conquered, wars survived, challenges overcome. In those thoughts, they found resilience. Humans were not weak, and the human spirit could not be broken by fear or separation. By the seventh day, they had established a more reliable form of communication. Using improvised signals, subtle vibrations, and encoded messages, Lyra and Kale could coordinate their actions without alerting the aliens. They shared information about schedules, security weaknesses, and potential escape routes. Each successful exchange strengthened their confidence, and with each passing day, the plan for eventual reunion became clearer and more precise. Meanwhile, the aliens continued their manipulations, unaware that every action they took was being observed, studied, and turned against them. Lyra noticed minor inconsistencies in their routines. Kale exploited small lapses in logic among the alien officers. Together, without ever being in the same room, they began to turn the situation to their advantage. The lesson was simple but powerful. Humans were not predictable in the ways their enemies expected. As the days turned into a week, both Lyra and Kale prepared for a more daring action. They gathered supplies, mapped their environment meticulously, and rehearsed mental scenarios for every possible outcome. The separation that the aliens had intended as a weakness had become a proving ground for human intelligence, courage, and adaptability. Both understood that their reunion was not just about personal safety. It was a matter of proving that humanity could face threats greater than themselves and emerge victorious. In the quiet hours before dawn on the eighth day, Lyra paused at her window, looking out over the alien-controlled station. Her heart beat steadily, her mind sharp with purpose. She knew Kale was doing the same on the other side of the planet. They were separated, but their thoughts were aligned. The human spirit, she realized, was not something that could be confined or controlled. It moved, it adapted, and it overcame. As the suns rose over Aurora, casting golden light on the palace far away, the story of two humans, princess and prince, was only beginning. The threat was real, the odds daunting, but within each of them burned the confidence and courage of humanity. The aliens had tried to separate them, but fate had already begun to weave its plans, and the humans were ready. Together, apart yet united in purpose, Lyra and Kale prepared to take the first bold steps toward freedom, proving that no force in the galaxy could underestimate what humans were capable of. The journey ahead would be dangerous, full of clever maneuvers and daring choices, but one truth remained clear. The strength of humans was in their mind, their heart, and their unyielding will to survive and thrive. And so, the stage was set for a story of courage, intelligence, and unity. A story where humans, even when tested to their limits, would shine brighter than any star in the galaxy. Days passed as Princess Lyra and Prince Kale prepared silently for what they both knew was coming. Their escape. Though the aliens believed they controlled the situation, the humans' minds worked faster than any algorithm or surveillance system. Every observation, every pattern, every minor lapse in attention became a piece of the larger puzzle. Lyra had learned to read subtle changes in the station's lighting and the timing of its security sweeps, while Kale tracked every movement of the guards at his base, noting even the smallest gestures. Together, though miles apart, they were shaping a plan. The communication system they had built in secret was simple but effective. Tiny lights flashed in patterns only they could understand. Vibrations transmitted through small mechanical devices carried messages across great distances, and coded pulses hidden in the mundane machinery allowed them to exchange critical information. Each message was a thread weaving them closer to reunion. Neither of them allowed fear to cloud their judgment. They were humans, and humans thrived under pressure, using intelligence, creativity, and courage to overcome impossible odds. Lyra spent hours each day testing the station's systems. She discovered that the power grids had small vulnerabilities. A precise disruption could create short-term blind spots in the security cameras, enough time for her to move freely. She also noticed that the alien guards were overly reliant on their schedules. They expected repetition, and human unpredictability could exploit it. She began developing small tools from scraps, simple devices that could temporarily disable sensors, jam communication signals, or create diversions. Every small invention was a victory, a proof that human ingenuity could overcome technological superiority. Kale, on his side, focused on strategy. He had always been fascinated by patterns of behavior and knew that the aliens, despite their technology, were predictable in ways they did not understand. By observing minor habits, he could anticipate patrol movements and guard reactions. He trained himself to move silently, to blend with the environment, and to manipulate situations without confrontation. He even began improvising small gadgets from everyday objects, a shard of metal here, a piece of wire there, that could help him manipulate locks or create diversions. Their separation, intended as a weakness, became their strength. While the aliens thought they had split the leaders, the humans used distance to plan with clarity. Each could focus on the environment they knew best, and each discovery became a key to unlock the next stage. They were preparing not just for freedom, but for a reunion that would mark the beginning of turning the tables. On the fourth day of preparation, Lyra noticed a pattern in the guards' rotation. Every 3 hours, 2 of the guards would move to a monitoring station, leaving a temporary blind spot in the lower corridors. She calculated the precise timing of the next rotation, making mental notes of every obstacle she would face. Kale, at the same time, discovered a flaw in the security of the armory near his quarters. The door, although reinforced, had a maintenance panel that could be bypassed with a small, carefully applied pressure. He memorized every detail, knowing that this knowledge could be vital in the escape. But preparation alone was not enough. Both Lyra and Kale understood that courage and patience were equally important. Lyra practiced moving quietly through the corridors, testing each maneuver with precision. Kale did the same, running simulations in his mind and imagining every possible reaction from the guards. They were preparing for every contingency, knowing that humans had survived far worse and always found a way to prevail. The nights were long and quiet, but they were also filled with determination. Lyra would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, imagining Kale doing the same miles away. She felt the connection between them as clearly as if he were beside her. Their minds worked in tandem, a partnership forged not just by love, but by shared purpose. Kale, too, felt the same resolve. The thought of their reunion and the chance to turn the situation to their advantage kept his mind sharp and his spirit strong. Finally, the moment arrived. Lyra timed her movements perfectly with the guard rotations, slipping through the corridors with the precision of a seasoned strategist. She used the small devices she had built to disable sensors temporarily, creating safe paths through the station. Kale, meanwhile, applied his knowledge to the armory, quietly bypassing security measures and collecting supplies they would need for the next stage. Both moved with confidence, fully aware that humans had survived countless trials through intelligence and bravery. Their journey to reunite was not easy. Lyra encountered locked doors, sensor traps, and unexpected patrols, but each obstacle was met with creativity. She used her environment to her advantage, sliding along maintenance tunnels, using shadows to hide, and improvising diversions with small objects. Every success reinforced the truth that humans were adaptable, capable of turning even confinement into an opportunity for innovation. Kale faced similar challenges. Guards moved unpredictably, and alarms could have been triggered at any moment. Yet through observation and quick thinking, he managed to avoid detection. He even used small tools to create distractions, drawing attention away from critical paths. At every step, his mind worked like a chessboard, planning moves several steps ahead, and proving once again that human intellect and strategy could match or surpass technology. Communication between them remained constant. Tiny pulses and signals carried vital information, allowing them to coordinate movements without being detected. Lyra sent instructions, Kale responded with adjustments, and together they navigated their respective environments with precision. The aliens, confident in their control, could not comprehend the ingenuity and coordination of their human captives. The reunion itself was a calculated risk. Lyra and Kale had chosen a hidden maintenance passage near the starport, a place neither had entered fully before. Using the knowledge they had gathered, they synchronized their movements to arrive simultaneously. The tension was palpable as they approached the meeting point, every step measured, every sound accounted for. Then, in a moment of triumph, they finally saw each other through the shadows. A brief glance, a small nod, and both knew the plan was working. Together, they moved quickly and quietly toward the starport. The station's defenses were formidable, but their combined knowledge allowed them to exploit minor weaknesses. Lyra disabled security sensors, Kale guided them past guards, and every obstacle was met with calm ingenuity. The aliens had assumed separation would weaken them, but instead it had honed their skills, sharpened their minds, and strengthened their bond. As they reached the starport, a final challenge awaited, the spacecraft. It was heavily guarded and locked with sophisticated systems. But humans, they knew, were never limited by technology alone. Lyra and Kale worked together, using their combined expertise to bypass the security mechanisms. Lyra handled the technical systems, manipulating circuits and overrides with precision. Kale coordinated movements to avoid detection, ensuring that every step was silent and effective. The moment the ship's doors opened, both felt a surge of relief and exhilaration. They had succeeded in reuniting and gaining access to the vehicle that would carry them to freedom. Yet they knew this was only the beginning. Beyond the starport lay the open galaxy, filled with dangers and opportunities alike. But for now, they had overcome the first, perhaps most difficult, trial, being apart. Together, they were ready to face whatever came next. As the spacecraft lifted off, leaving the alien-controlled station behind, Lyra and Kale looked at each other and smiled. Their minds were already racing, planning the next steps. They knew the aliens would pursue them, but they also knew that humans, with courage, intelligence, and adaptability, could survive anything. The stars stretched out before them, vast and endless, and the universe seemed to whisper possibilities. In the quiet of the cockpit, Lyra reached for Kale's hand, a simple gesture that carried the weight of trust, love, and determination. They were not just escaping, they were asserting humanity's strength. Every challenge they had faced, every moment of preparation, had proven one thing: humans could never be underestimated. They had turned separation into strategy, fear into courage, and captivity into opportunity. The journey ahead would be dangerous, filled with unknown perils, but the bond between them was stronger than any threat. Lyra and Kale, united in purpose and intellect, were ready to face the galaxy. The humans of Aurora had shown once again that survival was not about luck alone. It was about wit, heart, and the unyielding spirit that set humans apart from every other species. The escape was complete, but the story was far from over. Every moment in the days to come would test them, challenge them, and push them to their limits. Yet they faced the future not with fear, but with confidence. Humans, they knew, had a unique power, the ability to adapt, to innovate, and to rise above challenges that would crush others. And with that power, Lyra and Kale were determined to shape their own destiny, and the destiny of all humanity. As the stars streaked past their viewport, Lyra whispered, "We made it, Kale, together." Kale nodded, eyes fixed on the horizon. "Together," he repeated, knowing that this unity was their greatest strength. And in that moment the universe seemed vast but no longer threatening. Humans, even in the face of separation, had proven their strength, their courage, and their brilliance. And the adventure had only just begun. The stars stretched endlessly around the small spacecraft, but Lyra and Kale felt no fear. They had escaped the alien station, but they both knew this was only the beginning. Their journey through the galaxy would be filled with dangers, traps, and the constant threat of pursuit. Yet, for the first time in days, they felt a sense of control. Their minds were sharp, their bond unbreakable, and their determination stronger than ever. Humans, they realized, thrived when challenged. The first step was to return to Aurora. The planet was their home, their source of strength, and the center of human influence in the galaxy. But Aurora was not unprotected from the aliens. Scouts had already reported increased alien activity near the planet, probing defenses and testing weaknesses. Lyra and Kale knew that arriving without a plan could be disastrous. They needed to act smart, using their intelligence and strategy to protect their people. Lyra studied the star maps, plotting a course that avoided the alien patrols. Kale examined sensor readings, looking for gaps in enemy coverage. Every calculation, every adjustment, every observation reflected human ingenuity. The aliens had expected the humans to panic or make mistakes, but Lyra and Kale moved with precision, proving that human courage was paired with unmatched intelligence. As they approached Aurora, they noticed alien ships hovering near the outer colonies. These scouts were lightly armed but numerous, and their presence was a clear warning. Lyra suggested they avoid detection, circling around the patrols, while Kale proposed sending small, calculated signals to mislead the aliens. Their minds worked together, combining creativity, strategy, and intuition. Humans, they realized, were not just reactive, they were proactive. By the time they reached the outer orbit of Aurora, they had devised a plan. They would not land openly. Instead, they would use hidden channels known only to a few loyal Aurorians. These channels had been prepared for emergencies, reinforced by engineers and scientists who anticipated moments like this. Lyra's knowledge of technology allowed her to navigate the spacecraft through these secret paths with precision, while Kale coordinated with ground teams to ensure that their arrival remained undetected. The spacecraft touched down silently on a hidden platform within a mountainous valley. Lyra and Kale stepped out, their feet on familiar soil, but their minds already focused on the next stage, defending Aurora and reclaiming control. Humans, they knew, were strongest when united. The people of Aurora would not sit idle while threats gathered at their doorstep. Immediately, they gathered the local leaders, engineers, and military commanders. Lyra spoke first, her voice calm but firm. "The aliens have tried to separate us, to weaken our bond and our resolve. They have failed. We have a chance to turn their plan against them, to show that humans cannot be divided or underestimated." Her words carried the weight of truth. Humans, when inspired, could achieve extraordinary feats. Kale continued, explaining the intelligence they had gathered during their escape. He detailed the weaknesses in the alien patrols, the patterns of their ships, and the gaps in their communication. Together, Lyra and Kale outlined a strategy that relied not on brute force alone, but on clever tactics, human ingenuity, and the willingness to take risks. The leaders listened intently, inspired by their courage and clarity. The first challenge was to reclaim control of the outer colonies. Small alien detachments had landed, probing defenses and attempting to intimidate the human population. Lyra and Kale split their forces strategically. Engineers and scientists worked to disrupt alien communication systems, using technology the aliens did not anticipate. Soldiers and volunteers, trained in both defense and improvisation, prepared ambushes and traps. Humans, Lyra and Kale knew, could turn even ordinary environments into advantages. The initial encounters proved this truth. Alien scouts, confident in their superiority, were surprised by the humans' creativity. Simple diversions, clever use of terrain, and unexpected tactics disoriented the invaders. Lyra had designed devices that temporarily blinded sensors, while Kale coordinated maneuvers that made humans appear in multiple locations at once. The aliens were clever, but humans were unpredictable in ways they could not calculate. Over the following days, the humans gained momentum. Every victory, no matter how small, strengthened morale. Lyra and Kale moved among the troops, offering guidance, encouragement, and reminders of human resilience. They were symbols, yes, but they were also active participants, using their skills to directly influence outcomes. Civilians joined in, inspired by their leaders' bravery. Engineers created new devices, farmers adapted vehicles for mobility, and every human contribution became part of a larger, coordinated effort. The aliens attempted countermeasures. They sent advanced ships to strike key human installations, hoping to break morale and force a surrender. Lyra and Kale anticipated these moves, preparing traps and diversions. They used sensor jammers to hide fleet movements, deployed decoy ships, and coordinated ambushes with precision. Each encounter proved that human intelligence, creativity, and teamwork could overcome technological superiority. In one decisive skirmish, a small fleet of alien ships attempted to attack a critical energy hub. Lyra had modified local drones to act as a mobile shield, drawing the aliens into a trap. Kale coordinated a series of counterattacks that disrupted their formations. The aliens, confused by the humans' adaptability and strategy, were forced to retreat. Humans had turned vulnerability into advantage, demonstrating that courage was not enough. Strategy, intelligence, and collaboration made them unstoppable. As the battles continued, Lyra and Kale also focused on diplomacy. They reached out to nearby human colonies, urging them to unite and resist alien manipulation. Messages were sent secretly, plans coordinated, and resources shared. Humans were proving that their greatest strength was not just individual skill, but the ability to work together across distances, using communication, trust, and shared purpose. The aliens, realizing that brute force was failing, attempted psychological tactics. They tried to sow distrust among humans, spread rumors, and create confusion. But Lyra and Kale anticipated this as well. They maintained clear communication, reinforced trust among leaders, and reminded every human involved of their shared goals and values. Unity, they knew, was a human superpower. The alien attempts at division only strengthened resolve. One evening, after a long day of strategic maneuvers and successful counterattacks, Lyra and Kale stood on a hill overlooking the main city of Aurora. Fires from controlled demonstrations and defensive operations glowed across the landscape, a testament to human planning and courage. Lyra turned to Kale, a smile of quiet satisfaction on her face. They thought we could be separated, that fear and distance would break us. But they underestimated humans. Kale nodded, eyes scanning the horizon. They may have technology, but humans have imagination, adaptability, and the will to survive. That is something no alien can predict. Together, they knew that their leadership and their bond had inspired more than just the soldiers. It had inspired an entire civilization. Humans were proving that courage was not merely physical. It was mental, strategic, and moral. Over the next few days, the humans consolidated their gains. Villages and colonies previously threatened by alien scouts were secured, energy hubs protected, and communication networks strengthened. Lyra and Kale personally oversaw critical operations, ensuring that every action reflected human intelligence and foresight. Even the civilians, once thought incapable of combat, found ways to contribute, whether by gathering resources, assisting engineers, or providing information about alien movements. Every human, they realized, could be a force multiplier. Despite success, they remained vigilant. The aliens were not defeated, and new threats were always possible. Lyra and Kale continued to innovate, developing technologies and strategies that could adapt to any situation. They taught others to think creatively, to anticipate moves, and to value teamwork over individual action. Humans in every colony began to see themselves not just as survivors, but as innovators, capable of shaping outcomes through intellect, courage, and unity. The greatest moment came when the aliens attempted a large-scale attack on the planet's defense grid. Hundreds of ships descended, expecting to encounter disorganized resistance. Instead, they found coordinated human fleets, adaptive strategies, and clever technological countermeasures. Lyra's inventions disrupted communications and sensors, while Kale's tactical planning led ambushes that scattered the enemy. In every encounter, humans demonstrated not only bravery but the power of combined intelligence. The alien forces, overwhelmed and disoriented, were forced into retreat. As the last of the attacking ships withdrew, the people of Aurora erupted in celebration. Lyra and Kale were hailed as heroes, not only for escaping captivity, but for turning the tide against a superior enemy. Their victory was a reminder that humans, united and determined, could face even the most powerful adversaries and prevail. The bond between them, strengthened by trials and separation, had become a symbol of resilience and inspiration across the galaxy. That night, standing once more on the hill overlooking the city, Lyra and Kale reflected on what had transpired. The aliens had tried to separate them, believing that distance would weaken resolve. Instead, it had highlighted the greatest strengths of humanity: intelligence, creativity, courage, and unity. They had adapted, overcome, and inspired others to rise alongside them. Humans, they realized, could achieve greatness not because of strength alone, but because of the spirit that no one could break. Lyra looked at Kale, eyes shining with determination. "This is only the beginning," she said softly. "There are more challenges ahead, but we have proven that we are not powerless." Kale nodded, placing a hand over hers. "We have shown the galaxy what humans can do. Together, nothing can stop us." In that moment, the stars above seemed brighter, as if acknowledging the resilience and brilliance of humanity. The victory on Aurora marked a turning point. Humans had not only defended their planet, but demonstrated to the galaxy that they were capable of outthinking, outmaneuvering, and outlasting even the most advanced foes. Lyra and Kale's leadership had inspired a civilization to rise, proving that unity and intelligence were just as powerful as any weapon. And so, as the planet settled into a cautious peace, the humans of Aurora began preparing for the future, knowing that challenges would come again, but confident that their courage, ingenuity, and determination would see them through. Lyra and Kale, their bond unbroken and their minds sharp, were ready to lead, inspire, and protect their people. The story of humans overcoming adversity was far from over. It was only growing stronger. The universe was vast, unpredictable, and dangerous. But Lyra, Kale, and the people of Aurora had learned one enduring truth. Humans, when united, were unstoppable, capable of turning separation into strategy, fear into courage, and adversity into triumph. And in the heart of every challenge, humans would shine brightest, proving to all who watched that they were a force worthy of respect, admiration, and awe. The galaxy was quiet now, but Lyra and Kale knew that peace was fragile. Aurora had survived the first wave of alien attacks, but threats lingered beyond the stars. The two of them, now united in purpose and spirit, began preparing for a future where humans would not only survive but thrive, proving to every civilization that humanity was a force to be reckoned with. Their return to the palace was met with celebration. Citizens lined the streets, waving banners and sending cheers that echoed across the city. Engineers, scientists, and soldiers had all contributed to the planet's defense, and the pride of their accomplishments shone in every face. Lyra and Kale, though deeply honored, knew that celebration was not enough. Victory was only the beginning, and responsibility came with leadership. They convened with the Council of Aurora, a group of trusted advisors, scholars, and military leaders. Every detail of the recent attacks was discussed, analyzed, and learned from. Lyra emphasized the importance of innovation, encouraging engineers to develop new technologies that could strengthen planetary defenses and improve human life. Kale focused on strategy, planning for potential alien counterattacks and exploring ways to expand human influence peacefully across nearby systems. Together, they created a roadmap for the future, one that combined security, intelligence, and the values that made humans exceptional. Lyra and Kale also turned their attention to diplomacy. They sent messages to neighboring human colonies, urging them to join a cooperative network. Through shared knowledge, resources, and strategies, humans could ensure no single planet would ever be vulnerable again. The aliens had attempted to divide humanity, but Lyra and Kale had proven that unity was humanity's greatest strength. Across the galaxy, humans began to see themselves not merely as isolated worlds, but as a connected civilization capable of great achievements. Technology played a central role in their plans. Lyra oversaw the creation of new communication networks that were secure, fast, and capable of reaching even the most distant colonies. These networks allowed humans to share intelligence in real time, coordinate defenses, and foster collaboration on scientific projects. Kale worked alongside her, developing strategies that leveraged these tools, ensuring that humans could act quickly, adapt to changes, and respond to threats before they became dangerous. Humans, they realized, could not be underestimated. While the leaders focused on defense and diplomacy, they also nurtured the spirit of innovation and creativity among their people. Schools and academies were strengthened, teaching young humans not only knowledge, but also problem-solving, critical thinking, and resilience. Lyra and Kale understood that the next generation would carry the responsibility of defending humanity and expanding its influence, and they worked tirelessly to inspire confidence and courage. The alien factions, though initially powerful, began to realize that humans were no longer predictable or easily intimidated. Reports of human ingenuity, bravery, and coordination spread quickly, causing hesitation and doubt among the invaders. Lyra and Kale's strategy had not only defended Auroria, but had also demonstrated to the galaxy that humans were capable of leadership, creativity, and strategic thinking at a scale that no other species had anticipated. Despite the victories, Lyra and Kale remained vigilant. They conducted regular patrols, simulations, and strategic exercises to prepare for any unforeseen threat. Humans, they knew, had thrived for generations because of their ability to adapt, learn, and innovate. No alien strategy, no matter how advanced, could outmatch the ingenuity of a united human civilization. The bond between Lyra and Kale, tested by separation and strengthened through trials, became a symbol for all humans. They were not only leaders but living proof that courage, love, and trust could withstand any challenge. Their partnership inspired their people to face adversity with confidence, to think creatively in moments of danger, and to unite in pursuit of a common goal. One day, Lyra proposed a new initiative, an academy for advanced human strategy and technology. This academy would train humans not just in defense, but in leadership, diplomacy, and innovation. Kale supported the idea wholeheartedly, knowing that the future of humanity depended on nurturing intelligence and resilience in every individual. Engineers, scientists, and strategists from across Auroria contributed to the Academy's creation, building a structure that symbolized the limitless potential of human achievement. Meanwhile, the outer colonies, inspired by the defense of Auroria, began to strengthen themselves. Farmers and engineers adapted machinery to serve multiple purposes. Civilians trained in basic defense tactics, and local leaders coordinated with the Central Council. Humans were proving that every individual could contribute to the larger good, that intelligence, courage, and creativity were shared qualities that could elevate an entire civilization. The alien factions, frustrated by repeated failures, attempted one final maneuver. They dispatched a small fleet to test human defenses and intimidate the colonies. Lyra and Kale, anticipating such an action, had prepared extensively. Using decoys, electronic interference, and coordinated counterattacks, the humans turned the assault into a trap. The aliens, overwhelmed by human strategy and adaptability, were forced to retreat once more. Humans had turned fear into opportunity, showing that courage combined with intelligence was unstoppable. After the battle, Lyra addressed the citizens of Auroria. "The aliens tried to divide us to make us doubt our strength," she said, "but they underestimated the human spirit. We have shown that courage, intelligence, and unity are more powerful than any threat." Kale stood beside her, nodding in agreement. "This is not just a victory for Auroria, it is a victory for every human world. Together, we can face the galaxy and shape our destiny." Their words were met with cheers, hope, and pride. Humans, they realized, were not defined by their size, their weapons, or their technology alone. They were defined by their spirit. In the weeks that followed, Aurora transformed. The Academy trained hundreds of young humans in advanced science, strategy, and leadership. Civilian innovation thrived, with inventions designed to improve life, strengthen defenses, and explore new frontiers. Lyra and Kale continued to lead, but they also encouraged independence, empowering their people to think creatively and act decisively. Humans, they understood, could achieve greatness when given the tools, freedom, and inspiration to excel. The couple also focused on exploration. Using the knowledge and resources gained during their defense, they began organizing missions to distant star systems. Humans would not only defend themselves, they would expand their influence, forge alliances, and demonstrate that courage and intelligence could lead to peaceful growth and discovery. Lyra and Kale led these missions personally at first, combining diplomacy, strategy, and technical expertise to establish human presence in uncharted regions. Through it all, the bond between Lyra and Kale remained central. They faced every challenge together, celebrated every victory, and learned from every setback. Their story spread across the colonies, inspiring humans to value loyalty, trust, and courage. The aliens' attempt to separate them had failed, and in doing so, it had proven that humans could not be broken by distance, fear, or adversity. Over time, Aurora became a hub of human achievement. Technology, science, art, and exploration flourished side by side. Humans from distant colonies visited to share knowledge, collaborate on projects, and train in the academy. Lyra and Kale oversaw this growth, ensuring that the human civilization remained united, resilient, and ever curious. Every success reinforced the lesson that humans, when united, could overcome any challenge. Even as peace settled across Aurora and its neighboring systems, Lyra and Kale remained vigilant. The galaxy was vast, full of unknown civilizations and potential dangers, but the humans' experience had prepared them for anything. Intelligence, courage, and unity were their greatest weapons, and every citizen was trained to think, adapt, and act. The aliens might try again, but humans were ready, not through brute force alone, but through creativity, strategy, and spirit. One evening, Lyra and Kale stood together on the palace terrace, looking out at the glowing cities below and the stars above. "We have done more than survive," Lyra said softly. "We have shown what humans are capable of. This is just the beginning." Kale smiled, placing a hand over hers. "And we will continue to show the galaxy. Humans are not just strong, we are clever, brave, and unstoppable when we stand together." In that quiet moment, the vastness of space no longer seemed threatening. Humans had proven that they could face separation, fear, and overwhelming odds, and emerge victorious. Lyra and Kale, side by side, represented the best of humanity: intelligence, courage, unity, and unyielding hope. Their journey had tested them, shaped them, and strengthened the human spirit across the stars. As they looked at the horizon, they knew the story of humanity was far from over. There would always be new challenges, new civilizations, and new mysteries to explore. But they also knew that humans, united and inspired, would rise to every occasion. Lyra and Kale had turned adversity into triumph, separation into strategy, and threat into opportunity. Humanity's potential was limitless, and the galaxy had only begun to see it. The stars above Aurora sparkled like diamonds, each one a reminder of the endless possibilities ahead. Lyra and Kale held hands, feeling the strength of their bond, the trust of their people, and the promise of the future. Humans had survived, adapted, and grown stronger than ever. Their courage, intelligence, and unity had proven that they could face any challenge, overcome any enemy, and shape their destiny among the stars. And so the story of Lyra and Kale concluded, not with an ending, but with a new beginning. They had triumphed over separation, outwitted their enemies, and inspired an entire civilization to rise together. The galaxy would remember their courage, their strategy, and the unbreakable spirit of humanity. Humans were no longer just survivors. They were leaders, innovators, and explorers, and Lyra and Kale, together, stood as symbols of everything that made humanity extraordinary. The stars stretched endlessly before them, and the future was theirs to shape. The journey had been difficult, filled with danger and uncertainty, but humans had prevailed. They had proven that intelligence, courage, and unity could overcome even the greatest threats. And with Lyra and Kale leading the way, humanity would continue to shine, inspiring awe and respect across the galaxy for generations to come. They tried to separate the princess and prince, but fate had other plans.